have you ever stopped to think that the way you talk, the way you think, even the country you live in was all kicked into motion by something that happened over 500 years ago? It sounds kind of crazy, right? But the Renaissance was so much more than just old paintings and statues. It was a complete and total transformation of the world. And believe it or not, we're still feeling its ripples today. So let's trace those ripples all the way back to the splash.
Okay, so here's how we're going to break it all down. Think of it like a pebble being dropped into a pond. First, we're going to look at that initial splash, what the Renaissance actually was. Then we'll follow 4 huge ripples that spread out from there. The creation of modern nations, the rise of a whole new social class, an absolute explosion of new ideas, and finally, a golden age for the English language itself.
So what was that initial splash all about? Well, the Renaissance wasn't just some creative fad. Nope, it was a deep, fundamental shift in how people saw themselves and their place in the entire universe.
The word Renaissance literally means rebirth. It was this incredible period where thinkers and artists, especially in England, started looking back to the genius of ancient Greece and Rome. But here's the really important part. They weren't just trying to copy the past. They were using those brilliant old ideas as a launchpad to build something completely new and transform their own world.
And this is the central idea for a whole explainer. The changes that started back then didn't just stay in the 16th century. Oh no, they created these massive waves, these patterns and systems that just kept spreading out, shaping everything for centuries to come. And those are the ripples we're going to follow right now.
All right, ripple number 1. This one literally changed the map of Europe. It's where the whole idea of a modern nation-state really comes from. And for a place like England, this was a total political reinvention. Before the Renaissance, England was just this chaotic patchwork of territories. Power was all over the place, scattered among a bunch of rival lords who were always fighting. But the Renaissance changed all of that. It forged a powerful, centralized state, all under a single monarch, with one set of laws for the entire country. So how on earth did they pull that off? Well, you can thank the Tudor dynasty. Rulers like Henry VIII and Elizabeth I. They were the architects here. They systematically pulled power away from all those nobles and concentrated it back in the royal court. And maybe their biggest power move? Establishing the Church of England. That brought religion directly under their control and really helped build a unique English identity. And get this isn't just some dusty old history. That one move has a direct line to today. The current monarch, King Charles III, still holds the title of Supreme Governor of the Church of England. That's a role created almost 500 years ago by Henry VIII. Talk about a ripple with staying power.
Now for our second ripple. All of that new political stability we just talked about, well, it kicked off a massive social and economic chain reaction that created something brand new.
It all starts with the peace brought by the Tudors. With the wars over, the economy could finally grow. You had more trade, new industries, and all this wealth being created for a group of people who weren't nobles. We're talking merchants, traders, and landowners. And what did this new wealthy middle class want? Well, they wanted education, nice things, and entertainment. And that desire is what poured fuel on the cultural fire of the Renaissance.
And you've got to understand, this was about way more than just money. This new middle class completely turned the old social order on its head, that old system where the only thing that mattered was who your parents were. Suddenly, these were the people paying for the art and filling the theaters. They became the audience that this whole cultural explosion was for.
So let's recap. We've got a stable nation and a brand new class of educated people with money to spend. The stage was perfectly set for our third ripple, a radical, world-changing explosion of new ideas.
It was really a perfect storm created by 3 things. First, you have the printing press. You can't overstate this. It was basically the internet of its day, making books and information cheap and available to pretty much everyone. Second, because books were everywhere, more and more people learned to read, creating this huge, hungry audience for new ideas. And third, the Protestant Reformation challenged the absolute authority of the church, which opened up the space for people to question everything.
And one of the biggest new ideas to come out of this was humanism. This was a whole new philosophy that basically shifted the focus from the divine to us, to human beings. It celebrated human reason, our potential, and what we could achieve right here on Earth.
This new focus on human reason had some pretty incredible consequences. Thinkers like Francis Bacon started to argue for a totally new way to understand the world. He said, instead of just accepting what old books told us, we should learn by observing, by experimenting, by seeing things with our own eyes. These were the very first steps toward what we now call the scientific method.
In all of this, the stable nation, the new audience, the explosion of ideas, it all leads us to our final, and maybe the most famous ripple of them all, the incredible golden age of the English language.
Let me just ask you a quick question. Do you speak Shakespeare? Now you probably think the answer's no, right? But I guarantee you're wrong.
Because the man himself, William Shakespeare, either invented or was the very first person to write down over 1,700 words and phrases that we still use all the time today. Words like eyeball, manager, phrases like break the ice. His work, spread far and wide by the printing press, didn't just tell amazing stories, it literally helped build the modern English language.
And his plays weren't just for the rich and powerful. The Renaissance saw the creation of the first ever permanent public theaters, like the legendary Globe. This was absolutely revolutionary. It took drama from an elite hobby and turned it into popular entertainment, a shared experience where a nobleman, a merchant, and a common laborer could all stand together and watch the same story unfold.
And that legacy is so incredibly powerful that a perfect reconstruction of the Globe Theatre stands in London right now. It's a living, breathing monument that lets us experience these plays just like their original audiences did, connecting us directly back to this amazing cultural moment. So now you can really see how all those ripples connect, right? The Renaissance wasn't just a blip in history. It was the start of a massive chain reaction. Its ripples built the foundations of our modern nations, created the middle class that drove our economies, launched the scientific revolution, and literally shaped the words coming out of my mouth right now.
So that leaves one last question, and this one's for you. As you go about your day, think about it. Which of these incredible ripples, the political, the social, the scientific, or the linguistic, do you feel the most strongly in your own life?